Hi, I'm Graham from Second Era of Moles, and if you clicked on this video accidentally, 90 seconds is all I ever ask. Hopefully you're sitting comfortably for another week that was on Pokemon Masters X. In addition to the Champion Stadium still being in Johto, we've had the ongoing Giovanni events, we've had the Team Rocket Extreme Battle come up, Tornadus has come back to us in the Legendary Arena, we've got the Blissful Bonanza come back to us again, and we've got a brand new co-op event for 3-star gear. So, let's get on with it. As I said, the Champion Stadium is still in the Johto region, so you're taking on that Elite Four and Champion again. In round 1, the stats reductions get a boost to them, so I saw that Karen was weak to rock types, went for a team of Olivia and Lycanroc, Kukui and the other Lycanroc, and Lily and Clefairy to take much advantage of the stats drops. So the general idea of this one was to have Kukui use Leer on the other team to drop all of their defense. You then have Lily and Clefairy using Disarming Voice to drop some random other stats, and then you come in with big Stone Edges and Sync moves with Olivia. In terms of your points, there's no healing on this team, so you can put that on for an easy 100 points. I was aiming to take Karen out either just before or just after her sync move, so I put the sync buff on there. She wasn't going to take advantage of that for another 100 points. So when you get into the battle, you're doing Leer all 3 times in that first round with Kukui. He's just there leering at Karen like Lily's using 2 lots of Disarming Voice, and then just before the sync move she's putting Full Force on Olivia. That's going to give an attack boost, and it's also going to guarantee a crit hit on that sync move. Olivia is raising her attack and raising her stats through trainer moves, and then using that big 6x sync move to take everyone down. I think it took out both sides, that first one. Then when you get into the second round, Kukui's doing more leering like a creepy professor. Once the enemy's defences are -6, he's then starting on Accelerock to try and get some flinching in there. Lily's probably going to faint at some point in this second phase through to that second sync move. So you could, if you see that she's only got one more move, you could try putting a Full Force onto Olivia again to make sure her next move is a crit hit. Olivia's using Stone Edge all the way through. The only time she might not is just after the sync move, if you're trying to get that full 3 lots of attacks in there after your sync move. And for me it didn't really matter because, as you can see, I took Honchkrow out just before its sync move with a big Stone Edge. So quite a good round to get you into the swing of things, and then we're moving on to round 2. So in round 2, the stats that are boosted by a sync move are boosted even further. I saw that Koga was weak to ice types, and I thought that's an opportunity to use Kyurem, and then I put 2 6x supports in there with him to take advantage of those stats boosts. And those 2 supports were Elesa and Rosem, and Jasmine and Steelix. So when you're using Kyurem's Glaciate, that can do freezing, so you want to make sure that you have status conditions on so that that can kick in. My plan here was to use the 2 6x supports to get everyone's stats going really, really high, and then just Glaciate with Kyurem all the way through. So you start off using a Glaciate with Kyurem. After that you might want to use a couple of Mwahahas to make sure that his crit hit rate is maxed out and he's doing as much damage as possible. With Jasmine you're raising defense and using a Gyro Ball. You probably don't need to use a Clang at this point. Rotom and Elesa are using X special attack. If you need to, you can use a Thundershock if you don't get any refreshes. That first sync move is going to go to Jasmine and Steelix so that she can recover some of her health. After that you're using a Breathtaking with Elesa to make sure that your sync move countdown is as low as it can be to get that second sync move. That's going to go to Elesa and Rotom. With Kyurem, you're just glaciating as much as possible. You've got Clang in there to refill the move gauge if you need it, because that's a 4-bar move. For me, Steelix fainted to Koga's sync move. I think it was only Koga left standing at that point, so it just meant that I had to keep glaciating through and taking Koga out before he could take out Rotom and Kyurem. And I think he managed to take out Rotom, but he was that low on health that the next move would have knocked him out, whatever he did. So, all good. Bye-bye, Koga. When you get to round 3, your condition is that any field effects are permanent. When Bruno's weak to Psychic and you've got a Bianca, that's when you want to take on Bruno. So my team was Bianca and Musharna, Giovanni and Mewtwo, and Sabrina and Alakazam. I had to take a little bit of a break between rounds because I was like, right, I'm going to use Mewtwo, and I want him to be 6X, and I was like, I need to do a bit of grinding and get all of those fire things to upgrade him to 6X. So it took me about another day in between rounds, but I got him there. And doesn't Giovanni look swanky in that white suit? That man can pull off a suit. And this team has 2 field effects. You have Psychic Terrain from Bianca and Reflect from Alakazam. By the way, when I do that, that's because that's the position the Pokemon was in. So I had Bianca as the left one, target number 2, and Alakazam, target number 1 on the right. So that's why I gestured like that. So Bianca has Psychic Terrain, you want to do that one first. Alakazam has Reflect. You don't have the move gauge to do them both in the same turn. So as I said, Psychic Terrain first, and in the next round Reflect, because Sabrina can use Direct Hit All, and Bianca then starts using You Snooze You Lose. Mewtwo in the middle, see Mewtwo in the middle, starts off with Nowhere to Hide to raise that crit hit rate and that evasiveness, and then uses either a Psychic or a Confusion depending on how much move gauge you've got. Mewtwo was getting all the sync moves in this one. I haven't quite upgraded Sabrina to 6X yet. I think next week she will be, so just a week too early for you, Sabrina. He gets that sync move, it's going to do not too much damage this time around, but then you're starting attacking with Psychic and as much as you can on that one with Mewtwo. With Bianca, you're going to be hoping for a few refreshes on You Snooze You Lose to max out all of those stats, and then you're using Stored Power after that. With Alakazam, you're going to need to use a Sixth Sense on it at some point so that it survives. Even if Mewtwo doesn't take any hits, you want to use one on Mewtwo as well to raise that special attack so that you can do more damage. And you just want to keep attacking Bruno, because the combination of all those moves is going to take him down. The mistake I made on my first one was I used Stored Power on each of the sides, and Bruno managed to wipe me out before I got to my second sync move. But if you concentrate on him, you can take him out before he even gets to his sync move, and then that just means you need a second sync move to take out both of the sides. Or if they happen to take out Mewtwo, which they might do, your stored powers are going to be enough to do them both in. For round 4, your status conditions are boosted. Will was weak to poison types this week, so it made sense to go in with a team of Koga, and then Lucy and Sevipa, and then I had Liza and Lunatone as my support in there. So you're putting Poison Trap on all of the enemies and hoping that's going to take them down before they start doing big damage to you. I could have put the healing reduction as one of my point options for this one, because it's only really Lucy that's getting any healing and it's self-healing, so it's not huge amounts for this one. When I got into the battle, Liza got poisoned very early on. That sort of made it difficult to do very much with her, so you could maybe try changing her lucky skill to anti-venom to prevent that. When I was trying to use Koga to do poison, it took a few turns to get poison onto Exeggutor, and I was a bit like, I was hoping that I was going to get it straight away and then I could start raising everyone's evasiveness. That would have helped Liza and Lunatone as well, but it didn't happen like that for me. Lucy's in there and she's putting trap on everyone. If you're really struggling with your poison, she's a secondary option for doing that. She's also got her trainer move, which is going to raise her special defense and start doing some self-healing. The reason I put Liza in there is for the special defense raising. I was kind of thinking, well, Will's mainly using psychic types, special damage, so if we can raise that special defense, it's going to go a long way to winning this battle. I think I used Koga for his sync move. I think he has grid nodes that make it a little bit more powerful than Lucy's. Once you've got poison and trap on all of the enemy units, then you can start raising evasiveness, both with Koga's X speed and through his other training skill that's going to raise crit hit rate. I feel like I got away with this one a little bit because I got a few lucky evasive turns where I didn't take any damage. Executor fainted after taking out Liza. I was doing big damage to the two sides with Venoshock and getting some good crit hits in there. And yeah, I was kind of thinking, I'm probably going to have to redo this one. But credit to Koga, he got a few sort of ninja moves in there and managed to take out the side. So it's like, yeah, I'll take it. Sometimes it goes for you, sometimes it goes against you. This time it was in my favour. And then you come to Lance in the champion round. His condition permanent this week was a physical attack reduction. I chose to go with a sync move stats boost as my optional one to go with it. The team that I chose was Zinnia and Rayquaza, Signasuit Blue and Blastoise, and Sycamore and Xerneas. So I thought I'd be getting at least 2 6x support. Well, I'd be getting at least 2 support sync moves in there, so I might as well boost those stats in addition. So Xerneas gets that first sync move to raise special attack and special defense. Blue gets the second one to give you that team endurance. I was planning to use Zinnia for the third one, but she fainted before that. I'll get to that later. And in those sort of in-between sync move phases, you're using Disarming Voice, you're raising defense, you're using Water Pulse or To the Top to make sure that move gauge increases. If you need to, you can also use a World is Vast. Be aware that that comes with a move gauge boost as well, so if you're using that and To the Top, you're kind of wasting it a little bit. Zinnia's in there. I started off using Draco Meteor because Outrage is a physical attack and I wanted to avoid that getting shut down a bit too much. But then it drops that special defense so much you can only use it for so long, and her trainer moves don't really recover it too much, so a bit frustrating with that. Not half as frustrating though as Dragonite in this one, because Dragonite can use a crit shield and a special damage shield. And it's like, if you were setting up a team like I was, that was relying on special damage and also relying a bit on crit hits, it's like, well, this is a bugger, isn't it? It's like, I don't think he should have both. It's like, come on, pick a lane, Lance. Pick a lane and stay in it. Don't try and be both. Lance took out Blue with his sync move, which was unfortunate. A couple of turns later, though, I was able to get a big outrage in there. I have clear-headed as one of my grid nodes for Zinnia, so that gets rid of that confusion, and took out Lance with that. Then Rayquaza fainted to a rock slide from one of the sides, which was unfortunate, which left Xerneas against the two sides. Xerneas just dominated. It was one of those, it's just like, oh yeah, this is why I like using Xerneas, because it's just like Horn Leech, recovering all of its health. I had a sync move come off and I was like, I don't need to use it. I just want to keep Horn Leeching these guys. So there you have it, that's another Johto 7,500 point run. I'm not sure if next week is the last week in Johto and then we're moving back to Unova, or we've got 2 more weeks, so I'll try to include that in next week's video. I think I got a pretty good picture of Zinnia there. Usually she's like hunched over and she's like a crazy person, but in this picture she's just like, ah! The Looming Shadow event comes with a full force battle like these events tend to do. There are a couple of missions that are going to get you some move coins. The first one is to use all Kanto types, so the first time round I did it with Eevee, Red and Blaine, did kind of a burn it all down team. I then thought, well yeah, that's quite an easy strategy to do. Can I do it with different units? So I went with Eevee, Mewtwo and Mew, and it turns out yes you can do that pretty easily. So the second one is to use a normal type and a rock type. I misread it and I thought that meant you had to use 2 normal types. I didn't see the rock underneath, so I put Charon in there and I was like, yay, I did it. And then I was like, wait, why haven't I got my coin? So then I substituted in Brock, so my team was Eevee, Brock and Onyx and Mewtwo. This team has 2 units with 2 potions each, so you shouldn't have any sync pairs fainting, and you just use Mewtwo as your striker, Eevee as your fantastic support, and Onyx just sort of chipping in here and there to get that done. When you come to the Rocket Takedown, your Kanto units are all boosted for that. This one feels a lot more fair than previous ones because there's a larger pool of Kanto units to choose from. You've got lots of different tips and tricks that you can use in there. It's not like using Unova where there's a decent range of units, but a lot of them are either 3-star or 4-star, or they don't have a decent grid. So I was thinking, well, why change a winning formula? And I went with Eevee, Mewtwo and Mew, and that didn't quite work. Mewtwo is a little bit too fragile for that strategy, so I substituted in Blue and Pidgeot because they're a little bit bulkier. Who'd have thought, like, the final evolution of the most common Pokemon in the game is more hardy than something genetically engineered in a lab to be the greatest Pokemon ever. But that's by the by. In terms of strategy, you have Eevee as your support, doing flinching, sinking first for that boost. Mew is using Swift to reduce stats. Blue raises his accuracy and special attack, and then when it comes to it, gets that big sync move, and then sets off a couple of hurricanes just to mop up the rest of the team. It's a strange thing to do, isn't it? Oh, we'll just create a couple of natural disasters to finish off these Pokemon. Tornadus returns in the Legendary Arena this week. Kind of overlapped with Cobalion. I'd have thought you'd have one finished and then the next one start. But your 3 battle challenges for it are 3 Unova types, 3 electric types, and 3 gym leader types. I think last time it was Hoenn types, so slightly different strategy this time around. And I started off and I thought, right, okay, let's have a couple of gym leaders and use all Unova types to get that out of the way. So I picked Swanna and Skylar, Alisa and Zebstrika, and Rosa and Delibird. And I was like, oh, this is going well. Oh, I'm into the final bar. Oh, this is going too well. I finished it with just 3 units. So I was like, oh, I mean, that's great. But I have to do it again to get all of me gems. It was also a little bit comforting because you kind of think, oh, okay, well, I can have 2 teams that aren't very good. And I know that this final team is going to do brilliantly. So the first team I put in there was Clement and Heliolisk, Jasmine and Steelix, and Misty and Starmie. This was a definite stats reduction team. Misty has some moves that will reduce stats, so that gives you 1 electric type, 3 gym leaders. You don't have to worry about picking gym leaders later. Clement starts off with Mud Slap to reduce accuracy. When that's as low as it will go, you go with Electric Web to reduce that speed as well. If you're really low on health, at some point you can sneak in a Parabolic Charge just to get some of that health back. Jasmine raises defense. She's got Clang in there to keep that move gauge topped up. You won't necessarily need it because it's quite a speedy team. Misty is probably going to put Catch Us If You Can on Jasmine quite early to make sure she gets a little bit of evasiveness in there. That's going to be helpful. Jasmine is going to be using sync moves pretty much all the way through until she faints, because it recharges the move gauge, it's 6x, and she gets health back from it, which is probably the most important thing. So with this team I got Tornadus down to just 3% left of its first bar, and with -6 accuracy and -6 speed, I thought that was a pretty good job. I could have maybe done even more damage to it if I'd have lined up using an activate before a sync move, because that would have made it a crit hit and done more damage. But I think with a stats reduction team to do that much damage, you take it every single time. For my second team, I thought, right, now we need to get the Unovas in, so I used Kyurem and Rosa for 2 of those. I couldn't remember who my third pair for it was, and my screenshot failed. Then I remembered it was Nanu and Persian. So this again was trying to go for stats reductions by using Noble Roar with Kyurem, and then Screech with Persian to reduce that defense and set it up for Zebstrika, who's a physical attacker. I didn't do a huge amount of damage. I know I got it into the second bar. I didn't get any freezing off of Glaciate, which was a little bit annoying, but I knew that I had my third team to come and they were going to be doing the vast majority of the damage. My only worry was, I don't know, had I put too much pressure on that final team, but when it came to it, that team of Elisa and Zebstrika, Volkner and Luxray and Swanna and Skylar, that was such a good team for this battle. Skylar tanks really well on this one. I think a lot of Tornadus' attacks are physical attacks, so she raises defense. Her Take Flight also boosts speed, and that plays well into Zebstrika's inertia on her sync move. Volkner I thought was going to be in there and do lots of flinching. It got 1, and then Tornadus got unflappable, so I was a bit like, oh man, I was hoping to rely on that. But he's mainly in there for setting electric field and boosting the damage that Elisa is outputting there. His Thunderfang also occasionally does some paralysis, which is very, very helpful. Like the previous time Tornadus was in there, his healthy advantage really is a bummer. So you need to be getting paralysis onto him as quickly as you can, either through a Thunderfang or with Spark from Elisa. Elisa is going to be using Spark pretty much exclusively. I wouldn't be bothering with Wild Charge, especially with my grid. I've not got any Steadfast on there to reduce that recoil damage. If you're feeling extra fancy and extra clever, you can sync up an Electrify to guarantee a crit hit on your sync move and do huge amounts of damage there. Skylar gets that first sync move, and then it's Elisa from there on out. So to illustrate how much of a difference that healthy advantage makes, with my first sync move with Elisa, with Paralyze on, it did 35k damage and it wiped up a huge chunk of that second bar and took us into the third one. With the next sync move, where it recovered from that paralysis and I hadn't reset it, it did 6k damage. So it's kind of like, obviously, put it on there. If you have to delay your sync move by a round, make sure it's on there. But Zebstrika carried us all through. I had all 3 of that team still standing upright when the battle ended, so I was very happy. We've got another Blissful Bonanza, so make sure you do your daily battles for those. You're going to be getting gems, you're going to be getting lucky tickets, and you'll also be getting bookshelves of codexes and tomes, which are very useful when you're trying to unlock level caps. The final new event this week is another co-op event, so we're finally getting another lot of 3-star gear. These are going to be ghost type gear, which is great to have. I just think that they need to do a better job with the rollout. Even if you're doing 1 a month, there's 18 types, so it's going to be more than a year until we've got them for all of them. So I don't know, maybe do 2 at a time, or maybe it's going to be there's more stages unlocked in the X Plaza, but you do need to get a shift on so that we can start using those 3-star gear. When I've been doing it so far, I've seen a lot of anniversary lilies in there, so I think that's probably the most common choice for people in there. That was another week that was. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. I'm not sure if next week's will be a bit early or a bit late because I've got some stuff going on. I got stuff, but hopefully you'll join me for it. You're well past the 90-second mark at this point, so thank you very much and congratulations for making it this far. If you're inspired to go a bit further, you can follow me on Twitter. You can subscribe to the channel for notifications of future videos. Hopefully you'll join me next week for the week that will be, but thank you very much for watching this video and goodbye.